bank account. Technically, you have money in there, but emotionally? Emotionally, you still feel entirely broke. Maybe you've got 800 bucks sitting there, maybe even 1,000. But you know for a fact that just one unexpected bill, one weird car repair, or a slow week at work, and poof, that money vanishes like it was never even real to begin with. It is just an exhausting cycle of trying to survive. Well, today, we're breaking down a really fascinating concept that completely redefines this whole struggle. We're going to explore the journey from sheer financial panic to true financial power, all guided by a principle known as the $10,000 rule.
It is so easy to see why standard money advice, just invest in index funds or buy cash-flowing assets, feels completely out of touch when you are literally just trying to survive until Thursday, right? With what money? When you only have a few $100s saved, money doesn't feel like a tool, it feels like oxygen. You aren't sitting around pondering long-term wealth generation, you're gasping for air. The $10,000 rule is the real turning point here. It's the exact line where you stop merely surviving and actually start taking control.
So let's jump straight into Section 1, the cost of panic, and how we go about removing the fear.
The biggest light bulb moment here actually isn't about getting rich. It's entirely about removing panic to create what we call financial space. See, when you have zero savings, your brain is living in this constant, highly expensive defense mode. Every single decision is short-term because you're stressed out. You don't ask, hey, what's best for my future 5 years from now? You ask, what gets me through this week? That lack of space forces really desperate decisions. It pushes you to accept terrible loans, endure underpaid work, or rely entirely on credit cards. But having financial space creates a pause. It gives you the room to step back, take a breath, and ask, wait, is this actually a good decision? And I'm telling you, that simple, tiny pause can literally save you thousands of dollars over your lifetime.
Picture this. Two people with the exact same income, the exact same monthly expenses, and both suddenly get hit with a $1,200 car repair. For person A, who only has $300 saved up, this is an absolute downright disaster. They probably have to put it on a credit card that's charging 20% interest, and by making only the minimum payments, that one repair silently transforms into a massive, cascading cycle of long-term debt. But for person B, who has $10,000 saved, that exact same repair is, well, it's just annoying. Nobody's throwing a party at the mechanic's shop, but it isn't a crisis. They pay it in cash, their savings drop a bit, and they just rebuild it next month. It is the exact same emergency, but a completely different life experience.
Because let's be real, it is super easy to forget that financial disasters rarely start as massive movie plot events. When you look at routine life hiccups, a flat tire, your landlord bumping up the rent, your hours getting cut at work, it becomes blindingly clear that these are just entirely predictable parts of human existence. They will inevitably happen. There is no avoiding them. But if you don't have a cash buffer, these normal life events mutate into full-blown financial trauma. Having savings is simply a shock absorber, so a mundane Tuesday inconvenience doesn't ruin your entire year.
Which brings us right into Section 2, from defense to offense, shifting your mindset.
Getting this cash buffer is a massive, massive psychological shift. It basically turns you into a boxer who finally has the stamina to take a punch, step back, and keep going, instead of just getting knocked out cold in the very first round. Because this extends way, way beyond your bank account. It directly impacts your career and your earning potential. Desperation is easy to smell. Employers can sense it, your clients can sense it, customers can sense it. When you are financially naked and desperately need that next paycheck, your job just has way too much power over you. You tolerate disrespect, terrible hours, and unfair pay. But a $10,000 cushion? That gives you calm, quiet strength. You can negotiate without sweating, you can say no to bad offers, you can confidently survive a gap between jobs. Making decisions from a position of strength rather than fear completely changes how you navigate the world.
All right, Section 3, 3 layers, breaking down that $10,000.
Now, I know exactly what you might be thinking. Saving 5 figures feels completely, overwhelmingly impossible, especially if you're struggling to just save your first $1,000 bucks. But we can deconstruct this whole thing. Looking at it in layers, you don't just stare at a massive finish line. Layer 1 is your emergency shield. That's the first $1,000 to $2,000. This protects you from small, immediate fires, a broken laptop, a sudden urgent care bill. Layer 2 is the stability fund, roughly $3,000 to $6,000. This covers your core monthly living expenses like rent, food, and utilities, giving you some real emotional breathing room. Finally, Layer 3 is the opportunity fund. This is the launch pad. Once your basic stability is handled, your brain can finally stop panicking and start actually looking for opportunities to grow, invest, and build.
Next up is Section 4, financial traps, and avoiding those common mistakes.
But hold on.
Because reaching that 5-figure mark can actually make people act pretty weird. This is the first and honestly perhaps the most dangerous trap. The exact moment some people see 5 figures sitting in their account, a switch flips. They think, oh man, I deserve a vacation. I should upgrade my car. This is flex money. But think about it. You wouldn't pour a solid concrete foundation for a brand new house and then say, awesome, let's rip up half the concrete to go buy a new couch, right? That $10,000 is not a shopping signal. It has to remain boring, stable, quiet money. Because keeping your foundation completely boring is exactly what keeps your actual life exciting and emergency-free.
The second big trap is the urge to invest prematurely. We hear so much about compounding interest in crypto and index funds that people rush to invest before they even have a solid emergency fund. But listen, if you have absolutely no cash buffer and the market drops 15% right when your transmission blows, you are forced to panic sell your investments at a major loss. That isn't investing at all. That is just temporarily parking your rent money in the stock market and blindly hoping life behaves. And spoiler alert, life absolutely does not behave. You need the emotional and literal stability of cash before you can let your investments ride out those market storms. So let's get into Section 5, 5 Steps to 10,000, the actual blueprint. So how do we practically get there? Relying on sheer motivation to save money is cute for about, 9 days, but then real life always shows up. Wealth isn't built by feeling motivated, it is built by strict rules. Let's look at the unglamorous math here. If you pick a real, sustainable number, let's say $250 a month, it takes exactly 40 months to reach 10,000. If you save 500, it takes 20 months. Manage 1,000, 10 months. When you look at 40 months, yeah, it might feel frustratingly slow. But the absolutely crucial takeaway is this: slow progress is still progress. Most people stay broke simply because they quit doing the slow stuff after 2 months when they don't instantly feel rich. The people who actually win are simply the ones who stick to the boring plan long enough for the math to work. And here are the 5 actionable steps to actually make that happen. First, pick that real, sustainable number we just talked about. Second, and this is absolutely critical, automate it. If you wait until the end of the month to save whatever is left over, nothing will be left. Money without a job gets hired by your impulses. Pay yourself first. Third, separate the account so it's actually kind of inconvenient to access. Don't keep your emergency funds right next to your checking account where you can easily transfer it for takeout. Fourth, use windfalls like tax refunds or a bonus at work to massively upgrade your foundation instead of your lifestyle. And fifth, attack the big leaks. Yes, cutting out your daily coffee helps a bit, but your biggest wins are always going to come from reducing major expenses like housing, transportation, and high-interest debt.
To really see why having rules beats just having a good income, look at David and Mark. Both guys earn the exact same amount of money, but David saves absolutely nothing because he tells himself he's just going to wait until he earns a bit more. Mark, on the other hand, sets up a boring rule and automatically saves $500 a month. For the first few months, nothing looks different. David actually has way nicer weekends, but hit month 6 and they both suffer a massive $1,500 car breakdown. David has to put it on a credit card, instantly gaining a new monthly payment and a ton of stress. Mark pays cash. It's super annoying, sure, but it's completely done. Fast forward a year. David is still actively paying off last year's emergency, while Mark just continues to build his foundation. Having a solid system matters infinitely more than just having a decent paycheck. When you zoom out, this is the real paradigm shift of the entire journey. Before you hit that $10,000, your relationship with money is purely 100% defensive. You're constantly reacting. You're just trying to dodge the next disaster, constantly asking yourself, can I survive this? But after you cross that $10,000 threshold, everything flips. You move over to offense. You can finally start planning. You can actually pursue opportunities. You go from someone entirely controlled by the fear of random emergencies to someone who is finally in control of their own future.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly empowering question. Once you realize you have enough stability to make better decisions repeatedly, you stop asking if you will survive, and you start asking, what can I build next?